A response video to a very strange video by Professor Anton. I mean, it's not, it's the kind of thing where you should probably expect this, but, I really, he has this taint of some sort of defender of religion. He always has had some kind of taint like that. And this just seems like such an overreaction. He's calling YouTube as farce because the guy makes a video where, all he does is basically just point out that, religion like a, attractive mate. It looks good on the outside. I'm God, I'm going to give you what you deserve, right? So it's going to fix this deserve problem, this God theory. And, and so, people are attracted to that. They find that packaging attractive. But, at its core, religion is none of that, okay? It's just bigotry and hate and, it has all this pettiness built into it. That's the metaphor. They're just making an analogy that, look, you're just getting duped. You're getting duped by a package. The package is nothing, and if you accept this package, it will control you. It will turn you into a bigot. It'll turn you into an asshole. And there was nothing wrong with this video. And this overreaction is just bizarre.
People didn't think I was going to shoot a video today. This is going to be a response to P.W. Swivel's most recent video called Religion is a Bad Lover. And I wasn't anticipating shooting a response today or even, doing any YouTubing, but I feel obligated to say something about this video only because I just recently responded to his video on magical thinking. And in that video, it seemed as if this person was suggesting that he was advocating, or he or she, this person was advocating moving beyond magical thinking, being more rational. And then I see this video. And this video, at the time of posting here, it's been up about 9 hours. It's gone, whatever.
Whatever, so it's got 200 and some comments, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, some of this, I feel obligated to play the video, but I mean, this part's a little bit over waste, and it's probably more of a waste of me talking about this wasted part. But the point is, the video was nothing, okay? The video wasn't saying much. It was just pointing out that, look, religion has a lot of these stupid, idiotic, moronic doctrine. That's the real deal, okay? You might find the thing attractive, but it's really an alcoholic. It's really a son of a bitch, and it's going to turn you into garbage. And his video didn't even say that part, which I thought was the more important message is that, this religion thing is going to bleed into you, and it's going to take all your good nature, it's going to take all your love for the truth and love for decency and love for fairness and love for deserve, and it's going to turn it into nothing but hate and stupidity, and you're going to think somehow people deserve to go to hell. You're actually going to think that. You're going to find it yourself capable of discounting the suffering of zillions of animals and billions of humans because God says it's all right. And so it's going to turn you into a colossal asshole.
It's going to go viral. It's locked in at 308 and it has like 220 some likes, no dislikes. No one has disliked this on your channel. And these are people who also, my guess, they liked your magical thinking video. Aren't you concerned over what exactly is going on here on YouTube?
No. I mean, again, I don't see how you can compare these two arguments. The one argument is that, look, let's do this rational thing. Let's look at what life is for realsies, okay? And as adults, try to sit there and deal with these real equations of existence, these real dilemmas of existence. The fact that we do die, the fact that we do suffer, and the fact that their deserve has nothing to do with it, okay? It really doesn't have anything to do with it. And that's a huge, gigantic, monstrous elephant in the damn room. Deserve has nothing to do with it. This is the thing that we haven't fucking resolved. And that's a real big fucking thing. And that's what religion whitewashes away. Okay? Religion paints everything white so you don't see the big, giant, white elephant with deserve has nothing to do with it on it.
Don't you think YouTube might be a farce? What is it?
I mean, a farce for that reason is just so silly. I mean, to sit there and say that there's some kind of hypocrisy or a lack of continuity between the two videos. One video is pointing out, let's get rid of the bullshit. The other video is pointing out how the bullshit has fooled you, how you've been seduced, and that's all you've been. You've been seduced by fluff and feathers, by a pretty coat, and you haven't realized that what's underneath it is a goddamn cockroach.
Is this really rational thinking? The use of similarity magic? I mean, you basically take an analogy. You give an analogy that slides around through the conflation of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Yeah.
Well, like either one makes a difference. I mean, it is called the Holy Bible, okay? He didn't sit there and come up with the silly idea of having one religion based on two religions. I mean, that wasn't his idea. That was the silly religious fuckhead's idea. Okay, to call themselves Christians and still cling to the thing before the Christian. So whose fault is that? It's not his fault. Religious people are crazy. I mean, they're absolutely crazy to believe in a guidebook written by two different authors, essentially, for a functionality of two different items. I mean, it's like reading instructions, one written for a TV and the other one written for a refrigerator. I mean, it's so freaking stupid.
And then you kind of take the contemporary, I don't know how to say it, the contemporary understanding of Christianity, which is something like God is love. And that's sort of how people...
Okay, this is just such a canard, right? He's basically arguing that most Christians are harmless little people who don't have any bigotries and don't do any of this. They don't have any devotion to their popes, and they don't have any devotion to their doctrines, and they don't vote that way. Well, of course they vote that way, and we've seen them vote that way. They get an opportunity to gay bash, and they'll go bash some gays. Jack Kevorkian went to jail for 7 fucking years. Why? Because he was empathetic in a way God says you're not allowed to be. Period. No, nothing else put him in jail but motherfuckers believing in their stupid God. And what was his crime again? Oh, that's right. He had empathy. What a fucking villain. We not only have to torture him in hell forever, but yeah, we have to torture him here too. Because what a motherfucking villain he was. This is disgraceful to excuse the nightmare that has been the farce of religion. Religion is the fucking goddamn farce.
People use the expression, which is its own sort of analogy. And then it becomes re-perverted and interpreted through a bunch of Old Testament stuff, read literally. So
well, look, go with the New Testament stuff, read incomprehensibly. Take the Sermon on the Mount. What was Jesus basically saying? I don't have a fucking clue. Let's all run back into the trees. Okay? The birds don't have nothing, and God takes care of them. Well, as I've pointed out, God doesn't take care of them. God kills most of their children. Okay? God insidiously destroys them, and they only look healthy because they have to look healthy. Okay, they're forced to, because you can't be the least bit flawed and survive. It's unyieldingly brutal, but it looks good. So again, it's about appearances. It's not about substance. It's all this bullshit. And so what's the substance of Jesus' plan? There is no plan. And you're going to argue that that there's some distinction. That if you threw in some of the silly talk of the New Testament, that somehow this video would have been okay then. So if it was fair to the New Testament mumbo jumbo. The poor will be with you always. The Savior who saved nothing. Jesus couldn't even get Eve forgiven of the original sin that has women having pain in childbirth. The whole thing is just a farcical lie. And you're fucking defending it. People should be lying to each other. Why? Why should they be doing that?
Instead of realizing the degree to which figurative thought is the way most people understand the Bible. As Le Confidant had a wonderful...
Well, that's magical thinking then, isn't it? Really? I mean, especially when your figurative thought has nothing to do with reality. When you're making figurines that have little angels and little evils and when you're making figurines that have no correlation to anything in reality, then I guess your figurative thought is absolute, complete bullshit. And somebody should call it that. And you don't call it a YouTube farce when somebody calls it that. It's a farce for you to be defending it.
Video where he said, the only people who think that the Bible is a literal text are two groups. It's fundamentalist Christians who think it's a good historical or scientific text, and then there are these new atheists who think...
Yeah, well, whatever. And we, like I said, we know politically that's not the truth, okay? It isn't. That's not the truth. There's a real threat to abortion rights in this country. You're pretending that doesn't exist? Are you really pretending that 90% of the substance of the energy against gays and them being able to actualize their life isn't religiously based? Fuck.
I think it's a bad scientific or literal text. It's not. It's a series of allegorical stories that are used to help people in their self-understanding. It was...
Well, yeah, I don't... Again, so please defend these allegorical stories, okay? I mean, okay, let's say Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yeah, it has some good little story in there, right? It's this hot porridge, medium porridge, cold porridge, just right, so you get the idea of comfort and stuff, but you also get the idea of some vagrant like Jesus coming into your house and saying, well, I'm going to take your shit. And that doesn't make any sense either. So, so what do you learn from that? Oh, yeah, you learn that people make up silly stories about silly shit that has nothing to do with reality, and that's why we live in a shithole. That's why we have $20 trillion worth of debt, is because nobody can figure out the ABCs of doing anything rationally. They keep making their stupid, idiotic figurines that have nothing to do with reality, their stupid allegories and their bullshit figurative language and figurative this and metaphorical that, and none of it has anything to do with anything real. So bravo. Keep sinking the boat with this bullshit. Let's drill more holes in it. It'll make it lighter. It'll float better. Yeah, keep drilling holes in the boat. Yeah, let's make the boat lighter.
Earlier people's attempt at wisdom, and we could critique it, and let's critique it. Let's show the...
Yeah, we've already done that to goddamn death, and on top of all of that, we've critiqued it into a friggin' pulp of smelly poo, and you're sitting there still defending it.
Flaws of various forms of thinking, but can you do that when you're relying upon images? I'm going to get at the imagery.
Oh, well, come on. That Watts guy, whatever he is, that all you phantasmagoricals loved, was so propagandist in his technique, right? I mean, the voiceover, the waterfalls, and the whole way he was lyrical and talked about it. Carl Sagan, you go right down the list. Unfortunately, people need a lot of sugar put on their reality, okay? You still got to cover it with some sugar or they won't freaking go near it. You have to put perfume on this pig or they won't go near it. So yeah, that's just a fact of life, Professor. You're kind of doing the same thing here. You've softened your background, you mute your colors, you've got your hair always back. Why don't you let your hair down, Professor? What are you afraid of? Oh, that's right, you're afraid of looking like a fucking hippie and somebody just saying, look, he's a fucking hippie.
Not just the sense in which you're posting a video that is literally magical thinking of a bunch of analogies. It's not...
Well, again, it wasn't a bunch of analogies. It was a simple damn analogy. He was just analogizing a circumstances where people are fooled by the pretty covering and they don't get that the thing is really a horrid, monstrous, evil thing. And that's all he was doing, just metaphoring one fool to another fool. Okay, and that both fools are just going to get used by this thing, this institution. In the case of the institution will swallow them up. And in the case of the bad lover, it is this selfish asshole who has got a pretty face.
Reasoning, you give no statistics, you give no arguments, you in no way actually identify a particular practice of a particular religion and then show particular...
Look, we know that this isn't about practicing religion anyway. This is about indoctrination, okay? So the whole problem is people are shoved into this arranged marriage at birth by most people, and certainly by the general culture as a whole. I mean, they couldn't have, the media couldn't have whored over the new pope anymore. Could they possibly have exposed their vaginas and made them gapinger for the pope? I mean, it was goddamn disgusting. I mean, I could analogize that to the orgy was disgusting.
Consequences through evidence. You're not trying to disprove what you believe by experimentation and falsification, No.
Oh, well, whatever. It's a perfectly reasonable metaphor to the fact that they are attracted to this idea that this God will create deserve. It will give me what I deserve. It will protect me from harm. It will make me immune. It will do these things. It will quench the fear that people feel, and that's a lie. That God's not going to do any of that stuff, and He's going to do much worse to you. He's going to really rape the fuck out of you.
What you're doing is you're trafficking in an emotional appeal through this vague, nebulous history of lots of different religious faiths and traditions, all really on a kind of magical thinking. It's basically on similarity magic. You're working similarity magic in your own.
I don't know, his argument was pretty narrow. He didn't show any Muslim images as far as I remember, but whatever. I don't, I don't even know where you're going with this argument.
Audience, and they're liking it, not realizing that they also like your critique of magical thinking. Can you see this?
No, I can't see it. I don't think he can see it. I don't think anybody reasonable is going to see any conflict between the two videos. There's just nothing to be conflicted about. It's just two ways to point out the fraud, to point out the lie that is religion. It's a preposterous, stupid, idiotic lie, and it doesn't have any good character. It's void of good character. It's just fake promises for fake protections, immunities, and glorious heavenly gold, and it will deliver nothing.
I want to talk more about images. Can you be rational? Can you get out of what you're calling magical thinking when you're using images? Like, why not shoot a video where you just talk with people? Let's hear.
Yeah, well, why don't you do that? Yeah, and you have all kinds. Not only do you do this manufactured video style of your own, but you also have standards for how you wish to communicate with people. They have to talk your way, walk your walk, or you'll shut them off. So I mean, you're not any. You're talking from a very low pedestal.
You actually express views. Now, maybe you don't want to, show yourself on camera. I understand. Maybe you just would say things.
Yeah, you know what? Showing ourselves on camera isn't very effective. So yeah, unless you're fat and ugly. It seems to be the fatter and more ugly you are, the better off you might be. If you can look really doofy, if you can actually look like a dog, maybe it'll work. So the fact that he picked up a style, he found a little Frankenstein adamatron to do the work for him. Yeah, perfectly reasonable. It's kind of a good style. It's interesting. It keeps your eyes satisfied. What's your grief? What's your complaint, Mr. Blue Guy? Yeah, I mean, come on. This is just such bullshit coming from you. I mean, you've put makeup on your presentation. How can you complain about how somebody else does that?
With your own voice, or maybe just a text. But what's the point of using the Frankenstein image? Is that rational? Is that...
Yeah, I think it's rational in the sense that it has lots of, I think, value added, in the sense that it implies this idea. I mean, the Frankenstein image itself is this idea of, you're trying to do something good, prolong life or create life or save life, right? Immortality, almost. You're chasing immortality. Isn't that what Dr. Frankenstein's doing? And instead you end up with Frankenstein. You end up with this troubled, tormented thing. And even that idea of the troubled, tormented character. And he just has, Frankenstein's Frankenstein. He kicks ass. It's pretty cool.
Not more magical thought in play. Like, let's raise the issue even more of what do images do? What can images do? What are images' strengths? And how are images antithetical to a lot of reasoning?
Yeah, look, I'm all against any kind of propaganda, okay? I'm against any kind of makeup. I wish we could just talk directly and talk specifically and technically and precisely and do this argument thing and get it done. But that's not what we are, right? We're human beings, and we have these sensibilities, and we have a culture that we come from, and we have a way of speaking, and we have all this other crap. I mean, I say crap, and I say shit, and I say fucktard, and I say all this kind of shit. And yeah, so to other people that's a vulgar, horrible, unacceptable way to communicate. So we have all these rules built into our subjective sensibilities that make it more possible for us to communicate. And yeah, so some people are more generically acceptable, they're more white bread, and some people are wheat bread, and some people are whole grain bread, and some people are complete nut bread. And that's just the way it is, okay? I mean, it'd be nice if it didn't do that, but that's the world we live in. So you got to accept, you got to be able to expand your dietary taste.
And clear rational thought. Now, schematics, maps, there are important roles of images in science. But when you ask what an image does versus what texts do, or what rigorous argument and syllogistic.
Yeah, whatever. Again, you want to have a conversation about propaganda, that's fine. And like I said, I think it's just kind of obvious, though, that people are going to use tools. They're going to make it easier for them to make a wedge, a way to get the stuff into the person's brain. And it's, a lot of women that have them show breasts, or they do some other thing to throw a little candy, make it raisin bread, may sweeten it a little. Again, we can argue about how, gee, it'd be nice if intellectuals didn't pull that kind of crap, but in the real world, it works. And so you just can't deny the fact that it gets you in the door. I mean, wearing the hooker suit on Halloween might get you more candy.
Logic and, I guess, the kinds of reasoning that can be put forward to the scrutiny of discourse. It's very different than images. Like, let's begin with, we'll call it the hypnotic powers of beauty. I think there's a kind of hypnotism that happens with beautiful people or attractive people.
All right, and I'd say there's a certain kind of brainwashing that happens with raising kids with this theology crap all over the goddamn place. All painted everywhere, shoved everywhere, imposed everywhere. This idea that there's a God, and even if you don't believe in him, they believe in him, and they'll conjure him to get you if you're not careful. I mean, the whole world runs on those perceptions that are shoved into a kid's brain. So yeah, maybe they're not hypnotized into religion, but they're bludgeoned into it. I mean, they're sort of beaten until they see it. I mean, they just keep hitting them with the stick and keep saying, do you see him now? Do you see him now? He's your friend. He's your personal friend. Trust me. Do you see him? And until they say, yes, I see him, they're going to keep getting hit with the stick.
People. Let's take, beautiful women, they hypnotize guys. Guys are standing there, bang, they just get hypnotized by. I mean, beauty is its own form of hypnotism. It's utterly.
Yeah, lies are a form of, like, again, religions all promise that they're going to resolve this issue of deserve, that they're going to get you what you deserve. That's the lie of all religion. And it's a lie. None of them can do that.
Irrational. But this is part of the problem of YouTube, that there are people who they make assessments of people, make judgments of people. They say, well, I don't want to hear that, but look at the person, and then they just dismiss this person's arguments. That's utterly irrational. Now you might.
Well, I'm sorry you do that, okay, in a sense, right? I mean, really, in a sense, because in a sense you've said, I'm too fucktarded, I'm too rude, too obnoxious for you to be bothered with. And it's superficial. I mean, it really is superficial. I mean, if asshole is going to break your heart or something, you're really not ready for the kitchen kind of thing.
I'd say, well, you're avoiding that by producing these kinds of videos where you're not showing yourself, so people aren't irrationally dismissing you out of hand, basically on, it could be anything from the way you look, it could be skin color.
Yeah, so he's rationally constructing an argument to try to reduce offensiveness, increase intriguingness, interestingness, and make the information as simple and as poignant as possible in terms of message. Yeah, that seems a perfectly rational thing to do.
Or it could be sex, and there's all kinds of criteria that somehow irrationally play into people's judgments here. But when you take your example of using images in the backdrop and the kind of feelings that they evoke without ever making a presentation. See, this is how advertising works. I mean, take
There was so little in his video. I mean, really, this is just such an overreaction. I mean, he didn't really exploit too many images. Didn't use the worst of the image. He could have showed a sheep being bled by the neck. He could have done a lot more. He could have made the bad of religion a lot uglier, and the rest of it was just the idea that yes, these sympathetic images of unrequited love, loneliness, and heartache, that this God is not going to give you what you're looking for. He's not going to he's not going to make you a better person.
McDonald's commercial shows a happy family. The family is there, and we're not even sure that they're happy, but the family is laughing and they're smiling. And as they're laughing and they're smiling, no words are said. And they're laughing and they're smiling, and the parent feeds the other person a fry, and then the kid comes over, and then they're drinking a Coke, and everyone's smiling, and then they goes to the little
Yeah, and Alan Watts. I can just keep bringing up Alan Watts. Alan Watts steals rainbows, sunsets, waterfalls. He steals every pretty thing he can find in nature to tie his shit to, his babble. So what's the difference? Are you going to do a critique of Alan Watts?
arches in the corner, and it's, McDonald's. That's the ad. Does it make any proposition? Does it make any statement? What exactly is the falsifiable claim that we can go, yes, that's true, yes, that's not true? Now, you could say that you gave a claim that religion is a bad lover. That's not a real claim. First off, there is no lover there. This is an obvious metaphor.
Yeah, that's right. It's an obvious metaphor. It's an obvious metaphor. So yeah, that's obviously he wasn't making the claim for a metaphor. He was making a claim that the metaphor actually describes the circumstance, that these two circumstances can be compared, and that you're being a fool, okay, to fall for the fake promises of religion.
Okay, now let's agree. Okay, it's a beautiful metaphor. So I don't want to be too out of hand here. I think, yes, it's a provocative video. It's a wonderful video. It would have went much better before you posted the magical thinking video. But once you post the magical thinking video, I wonder if you, as a person here who produces video, do you see what you're producing, how it's related to your audience, and do you think you're actually promoting rational thought? Or
Yeah, I think he's promoting the rational thought to recognize that we are psychologies, and our psychologies are hungry for things, and sometimes we settle for a really bad meal, and we shouldn't have. We should have cooked it another 5 minutes. We should have poked it with a fork to see if it had maggots in the middle. Yeah.
you just substituting one kind of magical superstitious form of thinking with a more sophisticated one, or includes images and sound and all kinds of other things. But are you promoting rationality? Now, you may be promoting getting people out of one form of superstition, but superstitions, they can find the nooks and crannies. They hide in ways that people don't realize.
Wow. Now that's telling, right? I mean, in my opinion, that's a real telling statement. Because that's what I would argue is exactly what you're doing. You're disguising absolute crap and pretending that it has some credibility, because for thousands of years humans have been storytellers, so I'm going to make up a story. Yeah. And, so you're doing the same thing. You're just making up some more astrology crap. You're just finding some other little connected, oh look, if you look at it this way, and close one eye, it looks like a banana cream pie. Yeah, so let's call that a constellation, and let's make a whole structure out of that. That somehow, okay, that'll get us to the deserve paradise. Oh, that's right, we don't need deserve because we're Sisyphus assholes, so we don't give a fuck about deserve. We're too stupid to imagine deserve. We'll just sit there and be chained to our fucking boulder and say, yeah, it's a good, fair deal. Okay, I don't do any thinking, so yeah, pushing boulders, sure, I can do that. Because I'm not imaginative or clever or smart. But that's all you have to be, is not imaginative, clever, or smart to find that adequate and satisfactory, decent, reasonable.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, bizarre video. That's all. I don't know what to say, Professor. It seems to me that you have exposed yourself in a sense that you seem to speak. You really do believe that religion helps people. You really do believe that these fake little stories from the past, these simplistic, this juvenile philosophy, created by people who didn't have a single clue about reality, really. That this is all somehow good for human beings.
A friend who falls in love with the wrong person. You try to be tolerant. You try to say, to each their own. The more you find out about the bad lover, the more concerned you become for your friend.
There you go. See, so it's really just it's just an explanation that, this Christian thing will ruin you. It's a bad drug. But again, Professor Anton is selling his own little bottle cures, and they're made of the same snake oil. It's just repackaged. My God doesn't really exist. My God is a silly emotion. And, if we all run to the emotion, if we all just feel the emotion, somehow deserve will have something to do with something. No, that's not going to work either. And it has nothing to do with practical reality. It doesn't have anything to do with the problem of hurting cats. To create your world, you would have to eviscerate the world that exists. You would have to gut it like a fish and pull out most of its substance to have the world you think is possible. You just have to start just annihilating the fuck out of all kinds of forms of human because they're never going to be compatible. Dream on. Everything. So anyway. Bad video, Professor. Really. I mean, on so many levels. No. Religion is bad, okay? Come on. You gotta know that.